Okay, so I have the notification that we are live. So good afternoon, everyone. If we can have a member volunteer to lead us in the pledge.
I can provide flags. Oh, never mind.
All right, thank you, Scott. So everyone can just kind of cite the pledge. You can remain unmuted for that, but I'll go ahead and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Right, thank you. If we can have our Secretary of Records, Mr. Barker, call the roll.
Of course, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to call the roll for the district board only. I've recorded the district staff in attendance by just looking at the participants list in Zoom. If there's any district staff attending via YouTube that would like to be counted present for the purpose of the record, you can send me an email. Here begins the roll. 9th Western District Commodore, Sonny Thatch.
Here.
Tim Derry, 9th Western District Chief of Staff.
Present.
9th Western District Immediate Past Commodore, Harvey Randall.
Present.
John Sarin, 9th Western District Captain, Area East.
Present.
Craig Feldy, 9th Western District Captain, Area South.
Present.
Russell Hoganson, 9th Western District Captain, Area West.
Present.
And 9th Coast Guard District Director of the Auxiliary, Commander Gregory Dahl.
Present.
All right, Rick Hamilton, Division Commander for Division 31.
Present.
Jen Austin, Immediate Past Division Commander for Division 33.
Present.
Joshua Sajak, Division Commander for Division 35.
Present.
Terry Paggi, Division Commander for Division 37.
Present.
Bridget Derry, Division Commander for Division 39.
Present.
Ryan McGraw, Division Commander for Division 41.
Present.
John McDonald, Division Commander for Division 43.
Present.
And Greg Bergner, Division Commander for Division 47.
Present.
All right, that's 15 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. If we can have our Assistant District Legal Officer confirm the presence of a quorum.
I am present and I will attest to the quorum.
Thank you. For housekeeping matters to assist with our bandwidth, if you're not actively speaking, feel free to have your videos turned off. If you are going to speak, whether to ask a question or propose a motion, I would ask you to put your video on at that time. For introduction of guests, I'll turn it over to Anthony Marzano.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we begin this afternoon, we have a number of distinguished officials and guests from the Coast Guard and the Auxiliary who are scheduled to be here with us. I'm pleased to introduce them by name, and I encourage you to read their full biographies, which may be downloaded from the board meeting folder in the members only section of the 9th Western Region website. Captain Troy Glendy, Chief Director of the Auxiliary. Previously introduced, Commander Gregory Dahl, District 9 Director of Auxiliary. Commander Timothy Tillman, Commanding Officer, Marine Safety Unit, Chicago. Mr. Ralph Kugel, District 9 Assistant Director of Auxiliary. Senior Chief Chris Scala, Officer in Charge, Stations Kenosha and Wilmette. Chief Thomas Johnson, Executive Petty Officer, Stations Kenosha and Wilmette. In addition to the Commodores already introduced, we have past District Commodore Maureen Van Dinter, past District Commodore Jay Staggs, and past District Commodore Dave Johnson.
Thank you. And we were due to have from Auxiliary National, our Deputy National Commodore for Atlantic West, Patrick Fury. However, Commodore Fury sent me a message late yesterday evening stating that he was not going to be able to join us today. He's dealing with a family medical emergency. So I extend the best wishes to Commodore Fury and his family on behalf of Ninth Western. So I do thank everyone for their flexibility while we adjust to a virtual platform from our in-person event that was scheduled in Lisle, Illinois. So we are, for today's board meeting, combining some elements of what will be reserved for our Saturday opening session, as well as the Saturday Awards luncheon. So this is going to be essentially a hybrid meeting and opening session, if you will. So with that, we're going to move along in the agenda to the opening session portion of this afternoon. So I will hand the floor back over to Mr. Marzano for our remembrance ceremony.
Thank you, Commodore. You know, had we all been gathered together in person today, it would have been even more obvious that a few of our auxiliary shipmates are not, in fact, present with us for fellowship. So as the Commodore mentioned, as we gather virtually, it is also important for us to pause and take a moment to remember our shipmates who have crossed the bar since our last district meeting. As we always read when we're in person, the words of Lord Tennyson, "Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out are born of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar." Auxiliarist Bill Musselman, Flotilla 3703. Auxiliarist John Rogers, Flotilla 3506. Auxiliarist Sandra Walker, Flotilla 4703. Fair winds and following seas, shipmates, and thank you all for your attention. Commodore.
Thank you, sir. Now it is my honor to introduce Captain Glenn Dye for remarks from the Chief Director.
Thank you so much, Commodore. And I wish I could be there in person, but I completely understand how we're having to do this virtually here. And I appreciate the invite to at least address everyone here. So I want to personally thank you all for what you do for our Coast Guard. Truly honored to be your Chief Director. Talking to the Commodore before this, he wanted me to address some of the BS, or kind of give a BSX update and kind of direction of where we're going. So with that, just go through a big thing in BSX that we've put out over the past year. We've had multiple policy letters, SOPs, and other types of guidance that I hope that everyone's all aware of. And if not, really highlight that a lot of this guidance can be found within the Chief Director's website. So the first one want to mention, highlight is one of our policy letters that went out that was pretty much dealt with our waiverable tasks for boat crews. So if you haven't seen that, take a look at the website for that. We also had 4 SOPs that were promulgated over the past year. One of the most important ones was the auxiliary uniform and appearance manual that really highlights a couple of big takeaways from there is the new AWU uniform and also inspections. And one of that's the big thing is just to continue the great image that the Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary have together. So it's one of the reasonings behind that SOP and update for that. Then we had about 17 different, over 17 different AWOXs that have gone out. 2 important ones. The final promulgations, final action from the national board at NACON or NTRAIN. And from NTRAIN, there were 6 national board recommendations. I'm only going to highlight one right here. That's the establishment of the path from active duty to auxiliary. So we got a team set up for that. And there's more information in that AWOX. Then there was another one that was regarding from the national board and from there was 3 big recommendations. One of the big ones was the or having the marine safety points for ATON and PATON count for that particular designation. Lastly, on there, one of the most important things is Master Chief Park has done a tremendous job in mentioning a lot of commandant instructions. You don't have worked at headquarters or have been at headquarters. There's getting a commandant instruction signed or updated usually takes a long time. So what we've done with 4 different commandant instructions, which was the surface, aviation, and telecommunications and marine safety operation guides or instructions, they have been to a handbook, which is then it's signed by the chief director. So when things change, we can make quick updates to those type of those manuals. So once again, all that information, and I've said it a couple times already, can just be found on the chief director's website. So if you haven't seen those, please go and take a look at those those instructions and guidance there. One other update that we have from BSX is the printers issues that we had for ID cards. Many of you know that we've had some of those printers have become obsolete. We were working on getting funding for that. We ended up getting all the funding that we needed for that. So you should already have an ID printer in your district. If not, there's one on the way for that. Along those lines, we are working with an AUX-Data 2 to have the compatibility between that printer and AUX-Data 2 and be able to all push that out. But that is the one thing we're working on there is the funding for that. So that's our next step for if anyone's got questions for about particularly ID cards. Another announcement is, unfortunately, this past year within training for the we've had a cut of up to 30% of all training billets, I guess you could say, or training quote here. We are currently working that now with FORSCOM. So even though you may see those training that has come out, keep an eye out, whether it be AWOX or L2, because we are working to try to get some more training quotas the year, which I have a feeling we'll be able to get some of that back. But keep an eye out for that if any of these training quotas we're able to acquire. Lastly, just kind of want to talk a little bit about the auxiliary integration within active duty and to keep this momentum going. Being at headquarters, the Coast Guard Auxiliary brand has never been as high as it is right now, and we want to keep that momentum going. Back in the couple of things I want to address as far as like helping us with the integration for more auxiliary within the Coast Guard missions was the 2023 auxiliary gap analysis that was completed this past spring. And then there was a brief that came out at NACON regarding that. Two big things that I looked at which was great, was the need for recruiting specialists, which I think we all are well aware. But the other need was psychologists. So if you haven't had a chance, take a look at that, because that's a good, has some good information of what active duty is asking of the auxiliary. And then keep in mind that is going to evolve as missions change within the Coast Guard. So will the need for more Coast Guard auxiliary in the Coast Guard mission set. Another thing that's I don't know if you've Auxiliary Integration Award that has had our first winners back for 2022, and that is geared towards active duty units, mainly to change the behavior to further integrate auxiliary to the Coast Guard mission set. So and I want to speak a little bit from example for headquarters. I know of already different offices, whether it be that are currently using auxiliary that I never would have thought have used auxiliary for. One is the Coast Guard Directives and Publications. Another office is using is the Office of Investigations and Casualty, and within 5P. And then also Commercial Vessel Compliance is utilizing auxiliary and their missile backlog. So there's so much, I think, opportunity and so much that you all do for our Coast Guard. And in closing, like I said before, I'm truly humbled to be your chief director because we, the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary, could not be nearly as successful without all the work that you all do day in and day out. Thank you. Opportunity to address you all, and I don't know, Commodore, do I have time for questions, or would you like to refrain from that at this point in time?
Yes, Captain, we do have time for questions, and I thank you for making yourself available for that. So with that, does anyone on the Zoom call have any questions for the captain? Please unmute yourself, turn on your video, and ask your questions if you have any. And Captain, we will be posting those SOPs and handbooks as you discussed on our website. We have a dedicated page for the director's office where we can post those guidances for our members' review.
Excellent.
Looks like I have a hand for John Saran.
Hey, John.
Hey, Captain. Good seeing you again.
Likewise.
So we understand, right, the gap analysis is kind of like a snapshot in time, and there's very helpful information there. Also understand that since that time, right, there's been a lot of things happening in the world, government shutdown, everything else. Do you think, so what's on your mind sort of in 2024 for additional support requests we might receive? And what should our flotilla commanders, division commanders, folks that really control, have oversight over their units be doing to prepare their members for those kind of like spur of the moment or supplemental requests we might get?
Thanks, John, for the question. That's something that I think about, and honestly, the sky's the limit right now with the auxiliary, and there are certain things. If there's certain mission set that now I know we can't, law enforcement and the national defense. However, if there's other types of missions that have been, I guess you could say, maybe turned down for auxiliary use, is to re-engage in action again. And there are two specifics I know in my office. One of them is doing auxiliary background checks. We were told that auxiliaries were not allowed to access the, I forget the database, I think it's text database. And they've been told that multiple times over the past, I think, 5 to 10 years. Well, this past year, guess what? We got the approval to do that. So there's certain, another one is, and I don't want to declare victory yet, but facility use. Like when I say facilities, transferring a Coast Guard small boat to the auxiliary. I've been told, like right when I first got in, we've already asked that question. We've been told no, we've been told. And right now I know of 2 different places that are in the process. We're very close. Like I said, I don't want to declare victory, but I think that's going to be something that if we can do that and transfer the boat all legally under all the federal guidelines, that's, so when I say this, it's to continue to think of how else we can utilize, or how else the auxiliary can be utilized within the Coast Guard mission set, and ask your active duty counterparts, because I know for a fact when I was operational, I never really the old mindset was I never really thought of utilizing the auxiliary, and now I'm kicking myself for not doing that. So some active duty folks out there may not know all the skill sets that you have. And part of my job is to educate a lot of the active duty folks, which we're trying to do. However, sometimes that message doesn't always reach. So many times you can just ask the active duty folks, hey, can you help me with X? Or, hey, or, do you need help with, maybe you see like their facilities part. I know Commodore Molesky, I think he developed Aux Build, which is an incredible program on helping build facilities. And as you know, that's an issue that we have within the Coast Guard. So that question there, John?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Captain. And I know that there are probably a few boat crew programs around the lake that would love to explore those transfers that you just talked about.
Oh, yeah. And at the next, I'm hoping at end, because I've already talked to a couple of folks, if we can make this happen, then I want to have a lessons learned and be able to actually make it like either an SOP or guidance of the steps to do that. So.
Hey, are there any more questions for the captain? And we will certainly, Captain, we will be diving very deep into the gap analysis tomorrow. We are fortunate to call Anthony Marzano one of our own, of course, the Deputy Assistant National Commodore that spearheaded the gap analysis for National. So he'll be putting on a training session tomorrow virtually on the gap analysis and further augmentation.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I apologize. I should have highlighted that with Anthony there. So.
Not a problem. I'm happy to do it. Are there any last call for the captain? All right, hearing none, Captain, I do again thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share some remarks with us, and I look forward to seeing you at the next national event.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Commodore, and thank you all for what you do. I'm going to be staying on, so if there's anything has a question come up, hit me on the chat, or if you want to go up through your chain at some point, I'll be happy to answer them. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, next I am honored to turn the floor over to our own District 9 Director of Auxiliary, Commander Gregory Dahl. Commander, looking forward to any remarks you have for us, sir.
Thank you, Commodore. Good afternoon, Commodore Thatch, Chief of Staff and the Executive Committee and the members of the board. I want to thank everyone for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. Want to shout out to the DTRAN Train Planning Committee and their ability to flex at the last minute to go from an in-person to virtual format. And Captain Glendy, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. I'd also like to thank my DPA team, Ralph Kugel, who's on the call, Bosa Kalmeyer, Sherry Jeffries, your admin assistant, and Mike Barron, the voting safety specialist, who are unfortunately not able to join us today. Those individuals have been instrumental in keeping the behind-the-scenes activities moving forward, despite the challenges and the administrative issues that we're facing on both the auxiliary and the active duty side. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself to you all since I have not had a chance to meet most of you in person. I started my active duty journey aboard the Cutter Mobile Bay in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm excited to have an opportunity to serve in the Great Lakes region once again. I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to serve with Auxorus at every unit I've been stationed at over the last 21 years. I've worked with Auxorus to rectify ATON discrepancies and complete verifications on the Mobile Bay, conducted helicopter hoist operations with auxiliary boat crews in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and Mobile, Alabama. Benefited from the local area knowledge of Auxorus and Prince William Sound while conducting SAR cases out of Air Station Kodiak, and have stood watch with Auxorus in command centers and aboard Coast Guard cutters across the nation. And I can definitively tell you that the best boat crew, best communications watchstander, and most talented quartermaster of the watch I ever worked with were all Auxorus. I've been continually impressed with your professionalism, skill, and dedication to the Coast Guard. And I'm beginning to think that Auxorus are required to waive their right to say no, since I've never heard it when asking for support from the auxiliary. Today, it's an honor to be among so many talented volunteers who dedicated the fulfillment of the Coast Guard's many missions on the Great Lakes. Since the first of the year, District 9 Western Region's 822 members have completed over 3,700 surface and 708 air patrol hours. We're operating 3 air and 39 surface facilities, conducted 1,950 program visits, 2,500 vessel safety and paddlecraft exams. In total, 9 ER auxiliaries have conducted over 94,000 9 WR auxiliaries have conducted over 94,000 hours of volunteer service. If you break that down, that's 114 hours per member, or 5 days worth of total volunteer service since the beginning of the year. That is impressive. And you're leading the district with those numbers. And I would bet probably the nation. One of the best parts of my job is hearing about the great work performed by you across the district. From Auxair pilots, flight crews, and observers flying patrols over critical port facilities and infrastructure across the district, to coxswains and boat crews operating at all hours of the day and night in challenging weather and sea states, to vessel examiners ensuring the boating public have the equipment and knowledge to operate safely. We've also learned that there are numerous hardworking auxiliaries who handle the less glamorous but equally important tasks that keep this great organization operating. Auxiliaries like Ron Carlson, the 9WR DSOHR, whose incredible staff work managing hundreds of documents to seamlessly process retirements, transfers, new enrollments, and a myriad of other forms. His efforts processing new member applications have resulted in the enrollment of 69 new auxiliaries since the beginning of the year. And Ron, if you're on the line, I promise I'll get to those applications on Monday that are sitting on my desk. Auxiliaries like Gail Sedlock and Joe Sedlock. Gail and Joe are retiring after 20 years of service to our Grand Haven unit. Gail was the first district staff officer for the Culinary Assistance Program and is responsible for laying the groundwork for this incredibly impactful program today. Both John and Gail have also been lifelong liaisons to the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival Committee and have facilitated auxiliary involvement to the festival over many years. Additionally, auxiliaries like John McDonald, the D-Train Committee Chair, and Bob Allen, the DSOMT, for quickly pivoting from an in-person to virtual training conference, ensuring this critical event would continue despite the challenges caused by the continuing resolution. Without their hard work, organizational skill, and attention to detail, we would not be holding this meeting today. And this meeting is definitely important. I want to thank every one of you that is in either an elected or appointed leadership role within the auxiliary. I know that these roles increase your responsibility, increase your workload dramatically, but unfortunately, as there's no increase in pay for that. But I can tell you that as a director, I really appreciate all your leadership and all the work that you do and your willingness to volunteer. I wanted to speak about a couple items to discuss. As Captain Glendine mentioned, we are getting increasing requests for auxiliary support of active duty. Almost every day I get the question, can the auxiliary help with this? Can the auxiliary help with that? Just recently, last week, we compiled a list of realtors across the district with, or individuals with real estate experience who are auxiliaries to help with a basic allowance for housing survey to help our active duty members make sure that they're getting the housing allowance that will allow them to live comfortably at their units, particularly in the remote units where housing is at a premium. The Culinary Assistance Program is having a dramatic impact on active duty units across the Coast Guard. There are Coast Guard cutters and Coast Guard small state boat stations that would not be operating if it wasn't for an auxiliary culinary assistant cooking for the crews. The chaplain program across the Coast Guard is benefiting. There are chaplains, auxiliary chaplains from all the districts serving across the country and at events down on the southwest border and in the Straits of Florida, helping active duty Coast Guard members with all myriad of issues. Watchstanders at units, or particularly the small boat stations and cutters, are having a huge impact as those stations and small cutters are operating at reduced capacity and will be for some time. That's just scratching the surface of the request that I've received and my office has received for your assistance. As Captain Glendy said, the auxiliary brand is really strong. Admiral Hickey and the Chief of Staff, like I said, on a daily basis, asking, what's the auxiliary up to? How can I help? Tell them thank you for all their efforts. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. However, along those lines, I want all you leaders to be aware that burnout is an issue that I am concerned about with the auxiliary. You guys, like I said, never say no, but I want you to realize that it's okay to say no. If you're concerned about safety, if you don't have the proper equipment, if your people don't have the training, if they're just tired, if they're doing things that are dangerous and they're concerned about it, please forward those comments up through Commodore to me and we can address it. I want you to reemphasize that it's okay to say no. We don't want to hurt anyone or burn out any of our dedicated volunteers. Along those same lines, recruiting and retention is a challenge within the auxiliary and the active duty forces. However, thanks to your efforts, 69 new auxiliaries have been brought on board in 9 Western region this year. We haven't replaced the losses from COVID, but recruiting is on the upswing in both the active duty and auxiliary ranks. One challenge we are facing, Captain touched on it, is the background checks for new and existing members. Up until October 1st, we were doing that through the ICC Coast Watch Division, which was a very smooth process. However, due to their workload, they're unable to do that for us. So we're moving on to a new program that Mr. Steve Keel out of BSX is heading. So we should have a solution to that problem here directly. Some great news, like Captain said, the new training handbooks are out. The Ox Air Ops and Training Handbook was the most recently one. One highlight is those frustrating 7015 forms are no longer required. They still can be used to track training, but they're not a requirement. The Ox Pad program is growing and we're getting more and more qualified American Canoe Association qualified members and instructors across the district. And it's an incredibly popular program that's having dramatic impacts across the district. There are some improvements going on to our favorite programs. I know E2, FSMS, Ox Data 2 are all frustrating, have their frustrations. However, they are improving, mainly thanks to the feedback from individuals like you. If you know of a better way to do something or a fix or a problem that's frustrating to you, again, please use the chain of leadership to pass these tools up. Because if we don't have feedback, then there's no way for us to make any changes. And that's what we want to do. We want to make life easier on you, not more difficult. A couple other items. Captain touched on the uniform SOP that came out. There's now an annual uniform inspection requirement for all auxiliaries. It's tracked in Ox Data 2, but BSX did a great job of making this as easy as possible for folks. It can be conducted in any uniform that is approved for auxiliaries, with the exception of the flight suit. It doesn't have to be done in person. It can be done via photos. It can be done via FaceTime or Zoom inspection. And I believe anyone assistant flotilla commander or higher is authorized to complete the inspection. And it just says you have to have an inspection. It doesn't say you have to pass the inspection. But the idea is just to make sure that when we're representing the Coast Guard in the public, that we are wearing that we have the items that we need to look professional. One other change, if you're a member of a ceremonial team like a color guard, beards are no longer authorized, but a mustache is. I'm not one to shy away from controversial issues, and the next topic I know is a hot button item, particularly in this district, and that's the flotilla health assessment. Commodore and I have talked about this quite a bit. I talked with my predecessor about it before I took over. I am in support of the tool, but that's all it is. It's a tool. It's not going away. It's used across the Coast Guard, not just in District 9. And it's a great tool. In my opinion, it's a tool for helping flotillas assess their weaknesses. It's not, the idea behind the flotilla health assessment is not to shut down flotillas or to force flotillas to merge or to force divisions to merge. The idea behind it is to have data-driven decision-making to help you identify your weaknesses in your flotillas and your divisions, and to help you to make appropriate course changes so that we don't have to shut down those flotillas, because we certainly don't want to lose dedicated volunteers. And I understand that people are very passionate about the unit they work with. And I want you to know that disestablishment is the absolute last step in the process. And the goal being that we don't ever disestablish another flotilla unless it absolutely makes sense. Lastly, I want to thank you all for everything you do. And if there's anything that me and my staff could do, that I and my staff could do to help you better execute your mission or make your life better, please let us know. Please use your chain of leadership. And again, as with Captain Glendy, Commodore, if we have a minute, I'd be happy to open the floor up for any questions.
Thank you, Commander, for your remarks. Do we have any questions for our director? Don't be shy, folks.
Commander, this is Jen Austin, Division 33.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, how are you doing? I don't have a webcam on the computer that I'm on, so you'll just have to deal with my voice for a second. I did have one quick housekeeping item on the uniform tracking information in aux data. That's actually scheduled, I believe, for the next sprint. So it should be released to aux data within the next 3 weeks or so, but it's not in the system just yet.
Roger. Thank you, Jen.
Yep, we're in development and testing on that one right now.
Thank you, Jen. Anyone else? Final call for questions for Commander Dahl. So I assume I won't receive any emails or anything asking me to ask the director anything for a month at least, right?
If it happens, Sunny, it happens. Oh, we got a question from John.
All right, here we go. John.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Commander, for joining. So I know we all received this policy, and the flotilla commanders, division commanders, those that may have been in the military, they've sort of experienced these uniform checks before. Those that may not, right, haven't. Do you have any sort of best practices or things that we can think about or consider or look to for implementing that policy going forward, especially for those of us that may not have that military experience?
Are you talking about guidance as far as how to properly wear it, or just implementing the program?
Yeah, just like, when you should do it, and how do you do it in the active duty, when, if you do sort of regular unit uniform checks or, anything of that sort.
My experience in my units, and Captain Gunn, I could speak up, or Ralph, or anyone who's been in active duty. Generally speaking, it's not a super regular occurrence at the active duty units I've been at, but generally we do a formal, like a trop inspection or SDB inspection, one of those once a year, in conjunction with a unit-wide training event. We'd have monthly training events, and we didn't do it. I'm an aviator, so primarily at the air stations, we did not do like a uniform inspection every month at our annual training. But once a quarter, we would hold a uniform inspection and be, okay, we're gonna do ODUs one time, and then the next time we're gonna do trops, and then it'll be SDBs, and then the next one will be flight suits, and it'll be four per year. I would recommend the best thing to do would be like do it in conjunction with a meeting, like if you have a flotilla meeting or you have a division meeting or a training event. That way folks are not, people aren't doing it to them when they show up to volunteer at an event. They have all the biggest that, and Glenda, I could speak to it, but the biggest idea is just make sure people have the right uniform items. And if they don't, we give them an opportunity to get them. It's not meant to be a punishment. It's not meant to, we're not trying to discourage people from performing because they don't have the things. It's an idea to like identify people that need these items. So is that helpful? I don't know if I really answered your question very well, but.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And just, like the uniform manual, the Coast Guard uniform manual has, it goes through every uniform that the Coast Guard has. And it has, very detailed instructions on how it should be worn. Do I think people need to be out there with rulers, measuring that your ribbons are 1/4 inch above your pocket? That's probably taking it a bit far, but that's what the manual says. So if there's any conflict from folks, if you've referenced the manual, that's incredibly helpful, because then you can be like, well, if people argue with you about it, then you're like, well, here's the manual in black and white that tells you how your uniform is supposed to be worn. So.
Yeah, Greg, you hit that right out of the park there. And as most units, aviation specifically, because I'm similar to you, most aviation units, it's either you have some COs that said every month, and then you have some COs that go like, ooh, that's our 1 year thing. We have to, okay, what should we do? Use or something of that sort, and just to put the check in the box there. But the big thing with the uniform, like Greg, you just hit it right on, is mostly to make sure that people have the correct uniform and know how to wear it, so that the public still holds us up to the brand that we currently are at. So,
and what folks need to remember is, especially in a lot of the remote communities in our district, their only interaction with the Coast Guard may be an auxiliarist, and if that auxiliarist is not wearing the proper uniform, or their uniform sloppy, or they're wearing the wrong shoes or the wrong pants or something, it could form a negative impression. And also with our active duty folks, if they work with an active duty individual and they not wearing their uniform properly, that can create a negative image of the entire auxiliary based on one interaction. I mean, I've spoke with people who've had that negative interaction with one auxiliarist, and it painted their entire career. And we want to avoid that, because we know like 99.9999% of our auxiliaries are phenomenal volunteers who are squared away and they wear their uniforms properly. But, you are representing the public, the Coast Guard to the public, and you could be the only interaction they have. We want to make sure that we're looking professional when we do so. Thank you, John, for your questions.
Very helpful. Thank you.
If there are no more questions for the commander.
Commodore, I'm sorry, I had a question. I couldn't find the raise hand button on my thing.
No problem,
Commander,
Josh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Commanders, Joshua Zajac from Division 35. I had a question, or I guess just see what your thoughts are. Over this past summer, operational unit for my division, we traveled to the other side of Lake Michigan, on the Michigan side. We actually did it twice. We went to a SAR operation over at Station Michigan City, and then a group of 4 auxiliarists went up to Manistee, Michigan to go visit another fellow auxiliarist to help out with operational support. My unit has done this in the past and found it to be great success. On the travel back home, some of my shipmates, we were talking about possibly seeing if we could maybe expand this, or maybe even venture outside the 9th Western. We were thinking maybe going further up, like to the northern part of Lower Michigan, or even in the Sault Ste. Marie area. However, as I'm thinking about this, I had a little bit of concerns about like funding, if the Coast Guard would have issues like for trailing reimbursement and whatnot. I'm just curious, do you have any thoughts about that? And the reason why I bring it up is because, we're based out of Chicago area, and we kind of see quite a bit of action on the water down here. It's very busy, obviously. We found that when we went over to Manistee and Michigan City, some of the local auxiliaries and even the active duty folks found kind of some of our experience helpful, right? Because we tend to see more like SAR cases and stuff on the water. So I'm just curious, is that something that is possible? Would you have an issue with that or any, reservations? Just curious what your thoughts would be, sir.
So to start off with, the biggest reservation about that is AOR familiarity, and the comfort of the station OINCs, who the OIAs, the order issuing authorities there, their comfort with with folks operating in an area that they may not be familiar with. Down in Chicago area, I'm sure you guys are incredibly familiar with the waterways. You probably have some experience up there. So I'll let you know that I do defer to the expertise of the station OINCs who have tactical control, because I personally don't have operational control over the auxiliary. My role is primarily administrative in nature. If you may get one, I may call one station OINC in, let's say Sault Ste. Marie, and they're like, yes, by all means, I'm all for this. But if I call, Charlevoix, the OINC there may not be as, may have more concerns about safety. So from those individuals, we've had some requests for this. We had a request over the summer for support of a DoD operation. And we were in order to support at the level they requested, we were going to have to bring in assets from across the district in order to, across District 9, across the different regions. And just the local INC and the operational planners at district were like, we're accepting a lot of risk here and the gain really isn't there. So now to your question about funding, we do have funding available for trailering, and we also have funding available. We have funding. It's not unlimited. I wish Bosun Kellemeyer was on because he's my expert at it. But we do have some limited amount of funding available for that. And if you're in support of an operational unit, let's say Sector Sioux has an event that they want you to support, we can request funding from the district for TDY costs. So, meals and hotel rooms and things like that. So that's a very long answer to it depends, the cases, it depends. A lot of times it depends on the comfort of the operational commander. It depends on the gain to the mission. It depends on what type of facility that you're trailering over there. A pontoon boat might be great in the Saginaw River, but it's probably not ideal for Saginaw Bay or for, the Straits of Mackinac.
Commander, nice job there. I think that was exactly spot on too. You really have to consider, I think, that operational gain and the operational request, like you commented on. Is there a request for forces? Is there a need for this? Are we doing it just because we feel comfortable going up there to train somebody? Well, maybe that's not necessarily the best option, right? Maybe there's other options too. So we take a good look at it. And I know if Jason was here, the one big thing that he would say too is, if stuff like this is in the making and you want to continue to do this, make sure it is planned out. And when I say it's planned out, that all the who, what, where, when, and whys are answered. Those questions are asked and answered, and that it's given ample time to kind of take form, because sometimes these things can't be done in a weekend or a week. It takes a few weeks to put together too. So I guess the best thing to say, like you said, Commander, just talk to the chain of leadership that it wants to get done, talk to the operational commands that are out there, and then move forward to see if there's funding that way.
Thank you both.
Okay, if there are no more questions for the commander, thank you, sir, for your remarks.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Sonny. I appreciate it.
Now I am pleased to turn over the floor to Commander Tillman, Commanding Officer for Marine Safety Unit Chicago, for his remarks.
Hey, good morning. Oh, excuse me. Good afternoon, Commodore Thatch. Do you got me, Lima Charlie?
Yes, sir,
we can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Excellent. I got this creepy thing going on with my iPad where it zooms in on me as I talk and I move, and I'm a mover and a talker and a hand guy. So if my camera gets wild, it's my fault. I apologize in advance. First and foremost, Commodore Thatch, thank you so much for the invite to be able to speak to everybody during D-Train. Obviously, I think we're all disappointed we couldn't do it in person. Everybody was looking forward to getting together, and obviously we're having a horrible flashback to a pandemic, but by the grace of Christ, at least there's no virus going around that causes just a lack of funding at a certain period of time. So hey, we could always deal with that, right? But nevertheless, just really glad to be here to be able to talk to you. Thank you to Captain Glendie, and also thank you to Commander Dahl for speaking to the policy perspective and the actual governance perspective of the role of the auxiliary, because if you're not familiar with how our structure is set up, their roles are responsible for actual governance and oversight. And throughout both of their remarks, you were constantly hearing about the operational commander. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm blessed that I have this position, but I am an operational commander. It sounds extremely arrogant to say it out loud. I wish somebody else would say it for me, but nevertheless, it's my pleasure to be able to work with the auxiliary to actually implement your effective capabilities into what we're trying to accomplish on the Coast Guard side from an active duty standpoint. So I've had the privilege of being able to use auxiliaries for a multitude of things. So I'll just highlight a couple of our stats that have been effective for us or been impressive for us over the last year. We've done nearly 100 marine events. And if no one's familiar with the Chicago waterway area, 100 marine events are not just your old, Steck junior high school sail regatta. No, this is, for example, the Sail Grand Prix, which is a multi-billion-dollar event sponsored by Rolex and other significant constituents that support the city of Chicago, and that we receive, letters from the mayor's office thanking us for being able to consistently get these individuals to come and participate in this event in the Chicago area, which, because we did such a good job governing the marine event over the last 2 years, last year, we were able to repeat the event for a second year. And that is truly thanks to the work of the auxiliary, because for the most part, I had an administrative team of active duty folks, I think 3 to 4, that were involved in the actual oversight and interaction with the operators. But the actual boots on ground or boats in water concept of enforcing safety zones, that was done by our auxiliary crews. And I can't thank you enough for that. And we've had other events among that 100 marine events that are of that same magnitude. Also, I get to speak on behalf of the Chicago Police Department and the Chicago Fire Department to thank the auxiliary as well, because in other safety zones that we are enforcing, the auxiliary is there to assist those entities so that CPD and CFD can utilize their resources to do missions that are maybe more necessary inside the city, or rescues that are more necessary inside the city limits, because the auxiliary is there to provide that kind of relief. And I don't know if you always get the appreciation or the interface with the partners that you're actually able to help. I know that we as Coast Guard Active Duty are consistently telling you thank you, but I do want to make sure that you know that you're also thanked by other entities that participate with us in our jobs because of what you do and the relief that you provide. The other thing that we focus on specifically here at the Marine Safety Unit is illegal passenger vessel operation. This is kind of going to be the area where I dive in. With regards to that, we were able to process about $1 million worth of civil penalties. We ended up having one individual who was arrested and incarcerated for violation of illegal passenger vessel operations. And we also were able to process 42 violations and 7 captain of port orders, which restricted operations on illegal operators. That might not sound like much to you, but it actually means a lot to me because we see 2.5 million passengers, and that's our registered small passenger vessel workload. 2.5 million passengers, and that's in a 6-month period. Keeping those individuals safe is our number one priority. The previous stats that I mentioned about the captain port orders, about the fines, about the incarceration, that gets done because our team can do that with the assistance of the auxiliary. Great leaders like Terry Paggy, Craig Feldy. These individuals are people that I get to interface with and interact with on a regular basis to bounce ideas off of, to ask for resources, and to be able to conduct our missions out there utilizing auxiliary support. Also, the information share. Many times the auxiliary, because you are here in your permanent party, you provide a level of consistency about the marine environment or the maritime domain awareness that we're interested in, that many times the operational community and the operational commander doesn't have because we change out so often. So for example, I have 5 major marinas, and within those major marinas, I have auxiliaries in all of them. And I know that I can trust that I can contact an auxiliarist, or I can request an auxiliarist to, hey, can you tell me what's going on here? I'm having some trouble here. Hey, can you talk to the harbor master here? I'm having some trouble here. And those individuals have those relationships, and they have that effective capability that makes my ability to provide, maritime safety, security, and stewardship much more efficient and much more vibrant in the port and in the harbors and marinas, because of the role that the auxiliary plays and the actual relationships that you have. So I wanted to just close it all in by going back to something that Captain Glendye and Commander Dole had mentioned, which is the operational commanders. I'm from the government and I'm here to help, so trust me on this. I will give you the truth on what I need if you ask. And when I ask, please trust me that I'm giving you the truth on what I need. And what I mean by saying that is, I don't want our auxiliary team to ever feel as if you're being marginalized, or if you're not being utilized to the best of your capability. But there are opportunities, or there are certain circumstances where I have to use you in a certain way because I'm trying to provide relief to another entity to get a mission done. So if I ask for one thing, please trust me that I'm not trying to just push you to the side, or I'm not just being cantankerous. I really do need your help with these things. And though it may not be, the thing that you signed up for the Coast Guard Auxiliary to do, trust me, that support, that anywhere, that anytime, that anything attitude is really what many of our operational commanders need the most, because you're providing an unbelievable resource for us to be able to provide relief to our crews. So I just wanted to continue to tell you that, hey, you're doing great things in the auxiliary. If I could say anything to encourage you, it would be, hey, I need you. And I know that Captain Glendye and Commander Dahl also echo that. We need you as the Coast Guard. We want the auxiliary there. We know that there is some anxiety about the uniform changes and the uniform accountability requirements. But I'll share just one quick story. Every month during the summer months, I get the opportunity to go to Midway Airport and greet some of our finest warriors as they come back from the honor flight. World War II veterans, all the way up to Operation New Dawn, Iraqi Freedom, and Enduring Freedom veterans. We are there, and we are standing next to Naval Station Great Lakes boot camp classes. So imagine the sharpest 18 to 22-year-olds in all white uniforms, ready to go, looking sharp. And, and we're Coast Guard personnel alongside of them. And this is not to be a competition, but very similar to what has been echoed with regards to the uniform wear. We're representing the United States Coast Guard. We're representing the world's foremost life-saving service in an airport that sees significant national traffic, right? There's nothing we can do more to express our professionalism, express our importance, and express our dignity than to look appropriate when we're in those circumstances. So all that we're putting into the uniform wear, all that we're putting into the inspection process, all we're putting into making sure that everybody looks a certain way is to represent a great service and to make sure that everybody is looking the way they're supposed to look, so that we can continue to create that great messaging, and so that we can continue to project that strength that we want to project. So with that being said, I just want to tie it in one last time with a final thanks to the auxiliary and a final thanks to auxiliary leadership. I appreciate being on the call. I'll break with tradition. I won't take any questions. I'll just hang up now. No, I just joking. But if anybody does have any questions for me, I will more than likely have to defer to Commander Dahl or Captain Glendye, but I will do the best I can to answer anything for you about Chicago proper.
Thank you, Commander, and I certainly look forward to seeing you at the honor flight next week. I believe it is the last one for the season, next Wednesday. So
that is correct.
Okay, hopefully we'll put on a good show. Are there any questions for the commander? Craig.
Good afternoon, Commander. Question for you regarding something that is unique to Ninth Western. do you have any information on the upcoming putting into the fish barrier at Brandon Roads and how that might affect the auxiliary?
Hey, good afternoon, Craig. The previous installation of the fish barrier, I think that there was quite a forced laydown with regards to active duty, reserve, and auxiliary components for the operational oversight of how that gets done. What I can tell you right now with regards to the Brandon Roads barrier is because of the magnitude of the barrier and because of some of the different, I'm trying to think of how to annihilation engineering that they're doing there to remove the threat of this aquatic invasive species. We're still working through the system of finding out exactly what the operational components in coordination are going to be with regards to safety. Obviously, for the prior fish barrier, it's electrified. So we knew that there was one threat and there was pretty much a couple of mitigations for that threat. And then we knew exactly what we were doing. So we were able to get kind of a really good picture of what kind of force we needed to begin the process of working people into getting familiar with how to operate in the environment of that barrier. The new barrier has acoustics. It's got hydro guns. It's got lasers. I think it's got cats and dogs living together. I don't know. It's got all kinds of stuff and electronic and an electrified barrier as well. So we're going to have to go through the process of looking through what the operational concerns are going to be, what the safety concerns are going to be, and then we'll look into the force laydown. And if there is a role that we feel comfortable, as was mentioned earlier about, the risk versus the reward, if we feel comfortable putting all auxiliaries there with us, with our active duty and reserve component for, making sure we're getting value added out of the presence, then obviously we will definitely ask for commitments from the auxiliary. But at this time right now, we really still aren't sure exactly what the need is going to be. So we want to see what the need is going to be first before we make the ask.
Thank you very much, Commander. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. John Saran.
Hey, Commander. Every year around this time, right, we kind of take a break after the boating season and we start looking ahead to the next year. This coming year, I know we don't have the SailGP again, and we're probably going to have the same, list of events in Chicago that we've done for decades. I think two things that I see coming up in 24 are obviously the DNC convention and the Republican National Convention, one being in Milwaukee, one being in Chicago. Should our folks be circling those dates and, telling our boat crews, just be ready, we might get requests?
John, thanks for the question. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a possibility that there could be an ask for some safety zones, but I don't want to lie to you and have you having everybody, at the ready, fully geared up, waiting. The primary responsibilities on these are going to be security and law enforcement, right? So I don't want to get everyone excited about an opportunity to participate, only to let you down and tell you, hey, no, actually, unfortunately, due to Title 10, Title 14, Title 22, Title 18 rules, we're going to have to do this one on our own kind of thing. But what I will say is this, my staff already, including myself, we are engaged in so much throughout the city, getting prepared for it, that there are things here at the unit that I'm missing out on. So when I hear people talking about recruiting, that's one of my pillars here as personally, because I want, I'm in a 3.2 million person city. I should be able to pull one coastie out of here, right? So I'm not, for all the time that I'm spending working at a multi-agency coordination center, I am not able to get to University of Illinois, Chicago, or to Chicago State University to do any kind of recruiting or to push the Coast Guard message. The same thing with our, PI program, our Partnership and Education program. Every DNC executive steering committee meeting that I go to, that is a time that I'm not at a school reading to a kid, showing them the Coast Guard uniform, showing them, world famous life-saving services here, interested in your education and hoping that seed yields, some kind of fruit, 10, 15 years from now where they, join the Coast Guard. So where I would say DNC and RNC are on the horizon, yes, no, circle those dates on the calendar, but don't think we got to be ready to respond for DNC, RNC. Think more along the lines of, okay, that's the day on the calendar. So what is the stuff that isn't getting done by my active duty component or by my reserve components? leading up to that, because I can tell you right now, it already has started for us where things are being missed because we have requirements for DNC and RNC. So if there is an appetite for auxiliaries to support and to make sure that, you know, those events go on with the hitch, the mission support component for the active duty side might be more of a fit than actually, you know, getting your boat in the water to try to help out with any of those events specifically.
Thanks, Commander.
And to that point, as the commander was mentioning, the strains on our active duty units, that's the importance of the auxiliary unit coordinator. So we have those individuals, those highly experienced auxiliaries there working with the respective auxiliary unit liaison to communicate the specific needs of our sister units. So it's important for the division commanders to maintain close communication with the AUCs for the small boat stations, the ANTs, the MSUs, the sector field offices, and your respective AORs.
Oh, hey, Sonny, Commodore
yes.
Thatch. Sorry, one more
Yes.
thing, Commodore Thatch. Also, you know, because Anthony Marzano is on the call, want to reiterate something else that was mentioned and kind of glanced off of, which is one, auxiliaries. You have an unbelievable wealth of knowledge in whatever you've done in your, you know, civilian careers. For those of you who are prior military service, from your military service careers, the amount of information and the amount of experiences that you have, please don't ever hesitate to realize that those are important. In fact, I've had the opportunity of talking with a couple of auxiliaries where they said, hey, what do you need? I say, you know what I need you to do? Next time I have all hands, I've got a group of 15 to 20 impressionable 30-year-olds and below. I need you to come tell them about what life looks like. They can hear it from me, but they just think I'm just some dumb commander. But from you, who have actually lived the life and have been successful in so many other venues, other than maybe what my personnel are involved in, that means the world to these folks. And, you know, many of your parents, and you drone on to your kids and they don't listen to you. Come on over here. My kids will listen to you. So come on and just enjoy, you know, sharing your experience with us. And the same thing goes on the operational side. For those of you who are still engaged in law enforcement, emergency management, intelligence collection, first response activities, training, teaching, anything that you're involved in, don't hesitate to share that community with us, because we can always find a way to leverage those pieces for the better activities of the Coast Guard on the active duty side.
Thank you, Commander. We have a question from Terry Paggy.
Hi, Skipper. How's it going?
Hey, Terry.
Well, one of the things that we had this safe swimming initiative that came out this year, and I'm preaching to the choir. It's been a bad year for Lake Michigan, and we just got sent to us from the national level packets about making these presentations in school. So, you know, this could be kind of like a double type thing. I've got a couple of people working on it, making contacts for the coming up 2024 season, but, you know, kind of like do a little bit, because some of these are high school related, some of these are, you know, grade school related, but with the high school, you know, maybe we could do something, a little bit of a slight recruiting type, you know, type of thing there. And then also what we're also looking at is the UPV. I think that's going to be a big thing. And we're looking at, I reached out to Lieutenant Fortin to see about, and working with Craig to see if we can get like an 8-hour training session for people in UPV, and then hopefully take a lot off your plate for the next summer.
Absolutely. Thanks, Terry. And always great ideas. And I can't tell you how much I thank you guys enough. Because you guys really do cover the soup and nuts for us. You know, everything from helping out with inspections all the way to helping out with our front desk watch standing. So I can't get enough of you guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right, last call for questions for the commander. All right, hearing none. Thank you, sir. And I appreciate you taking some time to speak with us.
Thank you, Commodore Thatch. Thank you, everyone. I do have to drop off, so I hope you have a great rest of the meeting and looking forward to seeing you all soon.
All right, thank you. With that, I will pass the floor over to Chief Johnson, who is the Executive Petty Officer for Stations Kenosha and Wilmette.
Thank you, Commodore. I hope everyone can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Commodore, Captain Glendye, Commander Dahl, Commander Tillman. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with everyone. Senior Chief Scala was not able to attend today. I had a prior engagement. I apologize for that, but he did give me some remarks to read. And so I'll read those and then comment on those. Senior Chief says, first off, thank you for all the hard work and dedication during the busy summer season of 2023. We truly appreciate the support and engagement from the local Coast Guard Auxiliary with the public and the community. We can't thank you guys enough. We're so short-staffed, and being able to rely on the auxiliary to pick up safety patrols or do two-boat training is just such a valuable asset to have and such a great resource. Looking forward for the 2024 season, Senior Chief said he'd personally like to see more engagement between active duty and auxiliaries on the water and at
Chief Johnson, I think your audio cut out there. Chief, it looks like you're unmuted, so maybe your audio is back. You were loud and clear.
Can you hear me, Commodore?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So Senior Chief's expectation is we send some active duty Coast Guard members to monthly auxiliary meetings, preferably Senior Chief, myself, or our operations officer. We'd like to get more involved with some of the meetings and doing some pre-planning. We have had a few auxiliaries members conduct comms watch standing at Kenosha. It's been a huge aid for our unit, significantly dealing with the personnel shortages. We're very grateful to Auxiliarist Goldbach, Auxiliarist Pascalone, and Auxiliarist Frank for their dedication and support. Stand-in watches at Station Kenosha. Their watch standing freed up active duty members so that they could focus on law enforcement, search and rescue cases, and needed training. They also provided training to some of our newly reported members for Comms Watch. This expedited their qualification timelines with the knowledge that the auxiliaries were able to pass down to some of these junior members coming in. Senior Chief really wanted me to reiterate and to push that our door is always open. If there's anything that we can do better, or if there's support that we can provide to the auxiliary, more training, any of those things, we're happy to do it. Our door is always open. I enjoy a good cup of coffee or a good cup of tea. So if all you want to do is stop by Station Kenosha and have a cup of coffee and chat, we're all for that also. Last thing I have to pass is fiscal year 2023. We finished up with, we're in the tail end of with 47 SAR cases, 101 law enforcement cases, resulting in 18 lives and over $387,000 in property saved or assisted. We were able to conduct 378 auxiliary patrols. We currently have 3 watchstanders and 1 break-in watchstander from the auxiliary. And I can attest that the only way we were able to accomplish those numbers being short-staffed is because of the dedication of the auxiliary. And we really
Chief Johnson, we lost you there at the tail end again. I think we can hear you now.
Apologies, Commodore. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Where did I leave off?
Just the final thank yous, if you will.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would just like to reiterate, if we could push more for watchstanders and having people come by the station, the knowledge that you're able to share with some of these junior members and the experiences you had is really appreciated, and it just adds to the overall professionalism of the Coast Guard in general. So thank you, and please, if there's anything that Station Kenosha can do for you guys, we'd be happy to do it.
Thank you so much, Chief Johnson. I thought it was important to have representation from Stations Kenosha, Wilmette on the call, given the augmentation missions that were conducted over the course of several divisions this past operational season. So just wanted to give some time to you all and just kind of show the district as a whole what work is being done there, and how that essentially will probably most likely serve as a model for future unit augmentation and integration going forward. Are there? Yes,
Thanks, Commodore. I just wanted to say that, if you want to look for a success story with the auxiliary augmenting, Kenosha is definitely one of those.
Thank you, Chief. Were there any questions or comments for the chief? All right. Hearing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate you spending some time with us.
Thank you, Commodore. Thank you, everyone.
Scott, there appears to be a message in the chat, excuse me, about the live stream, so we can maybe take a look at that. Okay, next.
Commodore, the issue there is when you see the video unavailable, there is usually a link in the bottom or the bottom right of the screen to take you to YouTube, which should clear the error.
Thanks. I'm passing that on.
All right. So next, moving to communications and notices. At this point, I would like to turn the floor over to Commodore Van Denter, who is our civil rights coordinator. This is a senior position in the auxiliary that is actually appointed by the district commander. So I thought it would be prudent for the Commodore to introduce herself and speak to what she does as civil rights coordinator and the district civil rights program. Commodore Van Denter.
Commodore, you are muted, so we cannot hear you.
Let's give the Commodore, let's give her a few minutes. Maybe there are some tech issues. We'll try to work those out. We do not appear to have Commodore Staggs for the CGMA, Coast Guard Mutual Assistance update, but obviously there have been multiple communications emailed to the entire auxiliary on the important work that CGMA has done and continues to do. So everyone, we always have, typically at our in-person events, we have a donation section set up for CGMA. I know multiple units will have that for their respective changes of watch. So I just want to thank everyone for their continued support of CGMA. That, of course, is an organization that provides invaluable assistance, financial assistance to all of Team Coast Guard, whether it's active duty, reserve, civilian, and auxiliary. So there will be further information to come out for CGMA, I'm sure, in the next coming weeks. If we can have Mike Wydell come on and give an update for the Amy Gustafson Seeley Scholarship Fund.
Thank you, Commodore. I have a little PowerPoint if I'm permitted to share my screen here.
Give me half a moment here and I will accommodate you. Go for it, Mike.
All right, got to click the right button and it works okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Commodore, for giving us a few minutes here to talk about the Amy Gustafson Seeley Memorial Scholarship Foundation. And we will proceed here. Maybe. There we go. The scholarship was set up after Amy passed away. As a tribute to her, she died on August 17th, 2019. And the purpose of the scholarship is to provide financial assistance to the students in the atmospheric sciences at Northern Illinois University. It is a 501c3 charitable organization, so all donations are fully tax deductible. 100% of the donations go to the fund. The operation expenses are covered by another financing entity, so there is no cost
Hi.
To the fund.
Hello.
The scholarship recipients are picked by the university. It was set up that way to avoid any improprieties at the request of the university. And to date, we've awarded a little over $25,000 in scholarships to the worthy students. Some of them do, write us a little note back. Thank you for your generosity. My ultimate goal is a career in atmospheric sciences. Your financing has allowed me to lessen the financial burden on me and my family. Thank you for helping me achieve my goals through generous support. So we do receive some thank yous from the award recipients. There may be some people on the call who have no clue who Amy was. So she was an auxiliary member, active at all levels, Flotilla Division, District, and on the national staff. She was a 29-year National Weather Service employee. She was the first female and to date only one of 3 port meteorological officers. They're basically the people that go out to the ships and train the ship's crews on how to take meteorological observations and to install equipment to record weather phenomena on board ship. And it's if you can, those of you who know Amy, if you could picture her 120 feet off the deck of a 1,000-footer putting up an anemometer. She was well versed at doing those types of things. For her effort, she was awarded the most prestigious award the National Weather Service has, the Klein Award. And she was also active in other organizations. The Power Squadrons participated in many boat shows. She was the webmaster. She was involved in the STEM program, along with many other organizations. Donations are always accepted. Any amount is welcome. They can be mailed to the address that's on your screen. And we are working to establish an online donation. However, because of the way the scholarship is set up, I have to find an entity to cover the 4% that PayPal and other donations take. I think I've got that worked out, so look forward to an online donation portal shortly. Last thing I'd just like to say is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is commissioning a new build vessel, research vessel. And with any luck, when the keel is laid in 2028, it will be the RV Amy G. Seeley. Thanks, Commodore.
That's awesome news, Mike. Thanks for sharing that update.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, Amy is just, phenomenal. Former district captain, longtime member of our D-Train conference committee. Oftentimes be the first person you see at the registration desk, always a smile and great laughter to greet you to the event. So I'm very pleased that we can, keep her memory alive and inspire the next generation of meteorologists in our country. I believe I heard Commodore Van Denter there for a moment, so I'm optimistic we may have audio with the Commodore.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for this opportunity. I think we've heard a lot about the collegiality and the work that the auxiliary does. And we are so lucky, as we've heard, to get many new individuals join the auxiliary. But the key with the auxiliary is that we have a very disparate number of individuals coming together to work for common goals. And so we need to make sure that we are melding them as a team. And oftentimes what happens is that you may not get people who meld easily. It's a soup that does not mix quite well. And so it makes it difficult to get the mission accomplished or for people to work towards common goals. Within the leadership of the auxiliary, whether it's a flotilla commander, division, or on up, it's important that if you see that you have members who are having some challenges, that don't let it fester. You need to talk with them. You need to find out how you can help them learn things or be able to engage with each other. But if you find that you have an issue that arises that may be construed as harassment or abuse or any number of things, you need to act on that right away. We do have a system set up that will follow through in conjunction with DIROCS, the process of what has transpired with this individual. But I would encourage you to look in the auxiliary manual, look at Chapter 7, particularly sections B, C, and D, that really in clear language define what you need to do. What it does not do as clearly is indicate that if you have a member that has come to you as a unit leader and complained about an individual or a situation, that really starts the clock ticking to pay attention to try and help resolve this process, because you have 45 days to let the civil rights counselor be aware of this process. And we want to make sure that if we have a complaint proceeding, you don't wait until the last minute and say, well, cheapers, I don't know what to do. I just can't figure this out, and then make it go up, because we need to act on it. We need to work with the individuals. That's both myself as well as DIROCS. So I did send some written information forward, but encourage you to look at Chapter 7, sections B, C, and D, and clearly study that if you do have some individuals that express concerns to you. That's all, Commodore.
Thank you, Commodore. Were there any questions for Commodore Van Denter? The written information, the report that Commodore submitted, of course, is included with the other materials on the OneDrive. Great. Thank you, Commodore. We are we're running a little over per the initial breakdown. Next on the agenda is Ralph Kugel, our assistant director with awards.
Hi, Colin. Did you want to take a break? Is that what you were saying?
So I was at, how much time do you think you'll need for your portion?
15 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
That might be a lot.
All right.
Or
I
maybe
think we'll,
just respectfully a 5-minute break or something, folks, to get up, stretch their legs, grab a drink, maybe.
yeah, so it's gonna, we'll go ahead and take our, we can probably take our 15-minute break here if there are no objections to that, and then we'll reconvene, go through the awards, and then roll into the business session.
That sounds good on my end. I'll be able to get you back on track here too.
All right, perfect. Scott, if we can go ahead and pause the live streaming and then put up our away screen for 15 minutes. So it is 14:31. Let's come back at 14:45.
Perfect. Thank you, Commodore.
Thank you, everyone.